Welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed our first segment. Some really interesting points came out there. Continuing with that, I was just thinking about something I heard on the news the other day.
What you heard on the news?
They're talking about raising kids in the UK and how it seems there's a huge percentage of black on black stabbings. And the question that came out of that was, do we think that maybe the African migrants, second generation African migrants, have kind of lost their handle and are not really instilling the values that they've been taught as they've grown up? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, see, it's a really difficult one because a lot of, what we've seen a lot in the African community especially is that parents are always at work.
Yeah,
like
true.
They will work day shift,
Yes.
and then they'll probably come home, bath, and go for a night shift. While they're doing all of that, their children are just at home, and they'll just be like, there's rice in the fridge, there's blah, 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 just take food out and microwave and eat. So they're not actually parenting their children. And because they're not doing that, someone else is parenting their child. And that person is usually someone on the street. And then they'll end up getting involved with the wrong people.
Exactly.
And then that will lead to these stabbings.
These stabbings
because
that were
parents
having,
don't know what their children are doing.
So do you think there's an element of neglect on the parents' part? Are we blaming the parents here? Are we saying there's two sides to it?
We're not really
I don't
blaming
think
the parents.
Yes. I don't think it's blame per se, but I think we need to do better in the African community, African household.
Yeah.
And I think, I haven't grown up in a house where there was abuse, etc., or anything like that. But I do think, just from my experience, we concentrate more on you've got food, you've got clothing, you've got an education, there's a roof over your head, but we don't care for the emotional well-being of children, spiritual well-being of children, and things like, how is school currently, are you seeing someone, are you dating someone, and going even away from just going into the culture, like the knife culture, there's gangs, there's youth violence, there's rape, etc. And sometimes those kind of things, could be prevented from things like, what's happening at school, have you met someone strange, but we're not having those conversations because parents are at work, or again, because of the African household, you don't talk to children.
Exactly. So, I mean, do you think they've become soft, or they're neglecting? I mean, I think it sounds to me like maybe we're saying they're neglecting their role as a parent in certain areas specifically, and letting other people from the sort of outsiders take on that role and shape and form our children. Is that what we're saying?
That's really a hard one, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, they're the parents, they're the providers of their household. They have to go. They have to get the work done. They have to find jobs. They have to feed the family. So, but then at the same time, they need to have some attention on their children.
I was gonna say, yes, definitely, you have to go to work. You cannot work. We need to pay bills and all of that stuff. But the problem is they're not taking time to just sit down with their child. How are you? How's things at school? Who are your friends?
True.
Those kind of, most parents don't even know who their friends are. Like, I just say, Mom, I'm going out. Okay, go. Or sometimes some children don't even need to tell their mom.
Exactly.
I'm out. You've gone to night shift at 6 o'clock. If my friend calls me at 8 o'clock, come out. I'm 13. What am I doing outside at 8, 9 o'clock at 13 years old?
Exactly.
Your mom's at work, she doesn't know, but because you're spending so much time, trying to make money and less time on your child, they start getting influenced by all these people.
Do you think maybe parents are too trusting of their children then, maybe because your parents would maybe expect you, because back home you wouldn't go, I mean, I was born in Zimbabwe, and I lived there. So
you wouldn't dare go down.
And your neighbors would see you and tell your parents, and then you'd be so scared of the kind of stories that would come out.
And the gate, even more, the gate is locked. The gate is locked, so the gate is locked. How are you getting over the gate? How are you getting inside? So, okay.
You know, I do also think that sometimes as well, what creates an issue and aids, you know, in the rise of crime currently is that I think sometimes, you know, in African households, you know, there's a lack of appreciation of how children grow up in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's very, very different to how we grew up in Zimbabwe. I mean, I came to the UK when I was 12 years old, but, you know, just even things from like, you know, how my mum used to dress us. I love because we got bullied to school.
When you were like my
trainers and socks and a long dress like 3/4 like long sleeved, and you know you're in high school and children make fun of you, you know, and so I think sometimes parents don't appreciate that, you know, as a young person in this country, there's a lot of pressure on children, you know, and there's certain things like, you know, you may not have, you know, like growing up you don't get pocket money like in African households generally from my experience, and white people get pocket money, and so you've got a black child has no money to buy like, you know, lunch, say for example, or you know, let's say after school you can't get stuff for yourself and your friends are, and you know, a friend 25-year-old male, you know, grooms you, oh, you can make an extra £15, £25, £30. Yeah, of course you're gonna do that, you know, do you know what I mean? So I think that sometimes lack of appreciation of how children are growing up today does mean that young people, especially young black boys, turn to gang crime because they're looking for identity, they're looking for money, they're not trying to get into crime, they're not you know, they're not bad children, but it's just maybe the circumstances in their house and just
into that
attention definitely.
Well.
And belonging. Belonging. Yeah.
Because these sort of gang leaders or whatever they're called, they
take them on.
How are you? How's everything? What do you need?
They give them the attention that
If anyone does anything to you, all of that kind of stuff. So we're saying then that parents should maybe take that step, that additional step, and look at, okay, my son's got a new pair of trainers. Where's he got those from?
Where they come from?
Yes, my daughter's got her hair done. Who did her hair? And then maybe getting that one step forward. So who's this friend that got you this? Like,
I think it's about I think it's just about us like actually actively parenting, which I think, you know, in African households we generally don't do. We don't talk about money, we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about
what is that?
Friends, you know, don't know what that is. Exactly. Parents. So I do think it's just about parents being more active in their children's lives. I think that's definitely, you know, one of the things that we have to do initially if we want to see this change.
You know, you're saying African households. I'm just going to twist it a little bit and just say, turn it on their head a little bit and say, I think it's the black community because I'm half Caribbean and I've not been taught about sex or things like that. It's not something that we talk about, you know. So I think it's just the black community need to actually maybe change how we think about or approach parenting maybe because our young children are actually, you know, killing each other. Really, that's what it comes down to.
I think there were 48 stabbings last year in London by like November. It's really bad.
So bad.
And currently, like the statistics I think show that for every 1,000 black people there'll be 38 arrests, and for every 1,000 white people there's just 12. And black people are 3 times more likely to get arrested.
Exactly.
You know, and so I think, you know, knowing this as a community, we definitely have to do better. And even things like, you know, like dads not being around, that's more common in black community, which is, or dads are around, but not really involved, you know, being a role model for the children. And I think sometimes, you know, with the boy as he's growing up, it's like, well, why am I going to respect you? You're not even home, you don't pay bills, you don't pay bills. You are here exactly. Not here the other times, like, you know, do you know what I mean? And then they start to look at the, you know, their friends outside of the house, gangs, etc., to try and get that from what they're missing in their household.
So what are our final? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what do you guys think about this type of music that our youngsters are listening to? Grime and them gangster music. Because in my house when I was growing up, we used to listen to gospel, yo.
No, I don't necessarily think grime is to blame, to be honest, because it's music is an art form. Like I sing, and it's a way of expressing yourself. So whether you rap, whatever you rap about, grime doesn't make someone pick up a knife and go stab someone. You can never say that.
But I'm trying to say like the messages from the song.
I think the thing is that trying to, you're expressing your reality, so they're just expressing what's on their mind, what they're going through, and that's what the music tends to be.
Exactly.
But even with that, a lot of they're looking for ways to express themselves. There's not enough for them to do. So generally, they will join gangs, they'll do, there's not enough for them to do. And I think that's, again, something as parents we have to look at. We wouldn't normally get our children to do extracurricular activities. Do you know what I mean?
To cut you off. So what are we saying here? Are we saying our parents have been too soft, or are they're doing a good job, or need to kind of get with the 2020s?
I think it's understanding the kind of community and environment we live in, and also things like you can't really discipline your children the way you would in Zimbabwe.
Physical punishment, y'all. Physical punishment
can punish you.
Do you know what I mean? When I came over here and I heard the children in school telling the teachers to shut up and all sorts, I was like, what? No way! I couldn't believe it. Yes. Like, I was, teachers used to say to our parents, my sister and I were the best behaved, most well-behaved students because, in Zimbabwe, you come from a place where
you respect
adults and you appreciate education.
Yeah.
But anyway, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching us today. We've had a lovely time. We hope you have enjoyed the session. The ladies have all shared their amazing views. From Sandra,
Tequila.
Safara, we're saying bye.